Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
Hey! Good morning, LJ.
Good morning, AJ. Kaya.
AJ, sorry, I've got LJ in the studio. That's why I'm getting confused.
We're getting the different vowels here.
Happy New Year, guys.
Yes.
Happy New Year to you.
What time is it over there in Melbs?
It's
Nearly
nearly
It's
half
Nam,
past
isn't
11.
Oh, okay.
11:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's Nam, isn't it? Nam?
Yeah, Nam. Yeah, I'm actually
Okay.
in the land of
Which
the
is
Wurundjeri people at
The
the moment.
Aboriginal name for Melbourne. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Kaya from Boorloo. This is the Noongar name for Perth.
Cool. Beautiful. I've been there. Love it so much.
Or come back and see us the next time you get here.
And
I
we have
will.
been-
I will.
And we've been to Melbourne as well. Very
We have to
cold.
catch up with you over here. Well, it's not cold today. It's like 30-something degrees.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh,
Awesome.
nice one.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So we were very excited as we read through your website and had a look at some of your YouTube videos and things like that. And just give us a bit of background. Who are you? Who's your mob? Where you from?
So my name's AJ Williams. My background's Wiradjuri and Watchabullock. So my family are from Dimboola, Horsham, Dubbo, Wellington area of New South Wales. I started my career as a nurse, and I fell into nursing by accident. Because I was living in Sydney. I was living not far from the hospital, and I went in for a job as an orderly. And when I was 17, and the matron who was sitting on the panel had one look at me, and she must have seen something in me, because she stopped the interview and said, "Someone's put out of our nursing program. Would you like to become a nurse? And you can start tomorrow." And so my whole lifelong ambition to be a nurse, like I was only given like 33 seconds to make a choice.
Wow.
I went, yeah, sure. And within 2 days, I'd moved into the nurses' quarters, and thus I started my nursing career.
Wow.
Worked as a nurse for about 4 or 5 years, and then got attacked by a client and hurt my spine. So it's really hard to be a nurse and not be able to lift. So that's when I went and did social work. So I did my bachelor and my master's of social work.
How cool. And then you segued into mental health from there.
Yeah, look, I've always had a passion for mental health. As a nurse, I was a maternal health nurse and a mental health nurse.
Wow.
They're the two specialties that I actually went into, and I chose them because as a kid growing up, I actually had anxiety, but I also was diagnosed with bulimia as a kid. So I was in and out of hospital from about the years 9 and 10 at school. So I actually really wanted to work with young adolescents with mental health issues. So as a social worker, I also chose to do mental health as well.
Amazing. Amazing.
It all kind of interconnects, doesn't it? Like all the skills just comes out, and you just, you don't really have to have a specialised certificate for everything. You just, you did you did nursing, and boom, it kind of covers everything else, which is fantastic. So how long have you had your business for? And can you pronounce it for us? I want to see if I did pronounce it properly.
Yeah, it's called Giraway Ganyi. And
I did, yes.
Nice.
And it's named after my kids. So
Wow.
in Wiradjuri language, Giraway means goanna, which is my son's
You're
totem
away. I love it.
name. And my daughter's Ganyi, meaning little echidna.
Oh, that's cute.
So when I wanted to name my business, I decided to name it after my kids and just put Giraway Ganyi. I started off in about 2005, predominantly just to do cultural awareness training in the western suburbs of Melbourne, because at the time I was working at the Gathering Place in the western suburbs, and we were working with 32 home and community care organisations, and my job was the bridging hack worker, and I was only working a couple of days a week, and that was bridging the home.
Oh, wow, hack. We're going back a few years.
Yeah. I think it's 2006 or something like that. 2004, 2005.
Yeah, I was going to say even earlier.
Yeah, and my job was to help bridge the hack organisations into the Gathering Place. And what we noticed is that none of the 30 organisations had actually had any cultural awareness training, and at the time there was very little. There was only a number of consultants actually doing work in the cultural awareness kind of space. So my organisation at the time was basically going, no, it's not your job to do that. So they kind of gave me permission to do it outside of my own work hours, which is exactly what I did. And I started providing work to those organisations, and now I've kind of got a national presence.
Oh, look at you go.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So Marissa was saying that you've already facilitated some like 700 something mental health training. So you've been quite busy since you started just a few years ago.
Yeah, well, I actually started in 2007. Actually.
Oh, okay.
So it was a little bit of a while
journey.
ago. A journey.
Yeah.
I think. Get me right. I think my first course was in 2008, but I did my instructor training in the end of 2007 in November. So of course, people don't want training in December. So I think I started it in about January, February of the following year. I have just done my 723rd course.
Incredible.
I'm an instructor in the Aboriginal course, in the standard course, in the youth course, in the Aboriginal adolescent course, and in the teen programs in schools. So I do about 50, 55, 60 mental health first aid courses a year.
Wow.
Oh, that keeps you busy.
And
It does, but I love it. People go, do you ever get bored? And I want to say, no, I never get bored, because every audience is different. Every group of people is different. You can do activities a different way. You can watch videos and you can have different conversations. So every group is so unique.
A few in our mob have attended the first aid trainings that are provided here, actually, with our producer in-house, Tristram Reddick. And that is a big, parallel to the work that we do here as well, too. But for our listeners that don't know, can you tell us just a little bit about the services that you provide through the mental health first aid training?
So through mental health first aid, I think the first thing to do is people sometimes don't know what mental health first aid is, and kind of the help that's provided to somebody who might be experiencing a mental health crisis, or might actually be a reoccurrence of their own mental health, and the steps that you can actually do as a layperson in order to get them to professional help. I find that it's sometimes people call it a little bit of health promotion as well, because it can also help people understand their signs and symptoms, or family members understand the signs and symptoms, so they know what to look for. Because often when people get unwell, sometimes people don't know. And this is where I don't like denial. Sometimes people say, are they in denial? I think you have to recognise, you've got to recognise first that you've got a problem, and then that's when you deny it. But a lot of people become so unwell that they don't know that they're unwell. And that's why they're not denying it. They just don't know that they're so unwell. That teaching family about what the signs and symptoms are is so important, because most people, we see their friends and family more often. Their friends and family may be able to pick up the signs and symptoms in them a lot earlier, and then they feel comfortable and confident that they can actually do something to help.
And I think that's the first step, is talking about it as well, especially with Aboriginal people, getting them to open up and to speak, and, and just have someone to listen to as well.
Yeah, because our mob is still shame and, keep it
quiet,
in themselves,
keep it
or,
to
there's nothing
yourself.
wrong with me, sort of thing.
Attached. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's so hard for people to actually acknowledge that this happens in my family, that this happens, and how common. I think what I love about mental health first aid is you have conversations where you demonstrate to people how common mental health is. What are the signs and symptoms that people actually go, oh, I saw that, I've seen that, I've done. Well, this is when they're starting to get unwell, because people really only kind of intervene while the person's in a crisis, for example. This is about even looking at the earlier signs and having those conversations with people while they're not always in the crisis.
Yeah.
And what are some of those earlier signs? I know we don't have time to we would love to have a whole training session with you, but if you could just give us a little bit of an overview.
Next time you're in Perth.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think I always say to people, the things that I look at, the two things that I think about with my friends and family when they aren't too well is, one, their sense of humour is a little bit off, because the first thing that affects mental health is your thoughts and feelings, and sense of humour is nothing more than thoughts and feelings verbalised. So there's the first little thing to think about. The other one is that if someone's not their usual self, what's their normality? We've all got friends and family, and we know how they respond when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're mad, when they're glad. I don't know why I sound like I'm writing a Dr. Seuss book. But we know how they normally respond. And if you're not seeing their normal response, that's already an alarm bell.
That's a sign, isn't it?
That's a sign.
Yeah.
And because we haven't, like, if you have not done the training, you don't know. You just think it's something, your normality, like, oh, yeah, they're just not having a good day today. But that's what we noticed when we did the training, was like, oh, my gosh, that's actually the sign, which we didn't think of at the time until we did the training, and it's written for you, And, us black fellas, we just brush it off and go, oh, they're just having a bad day, or,
teenagers, boys will be boys, all the common things that you say.
Yeah. And that's why I love the Aboriginal course, because it's about conversations. It's about yarning. It's about looking at what does depression look like? What does anxiety look like? That our people have high rates of anxiety, for example. We do know high rates of anxiety. But anxiety affects every one of your body systems. So it affects your musculoskeletal system, which is why you get sore necks or backs or shoulders.
Yeah.
It affects your vascular system. It affects your nervous system. It affects your urinary tract system. It affects your gastrointestinal system.
Wow.
So all those signs, if someone's complaining that they've had headaches and stomach aches for the last 4 weeks, don't just rule it out as a medical condition. They're signs and symptoms of anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's looking at having those conversations with our mob, because we don't always have those conversations in families.
Yeah,
no.
When we were doing training, there was some, we were talking about symptoms, and they said the symptoms, and I said, well, I wouldn't actually think that's got to do with mental health. I think that you're having a heart attack.
Yeah.
So, and that was my first thing, heart attack. And they said, no, it's anxiety. It's like, oh, okay. So they're...
Yeah,
so
there's a difference,
cardiovascular system, which is why people get chest pain and heart palpitations and panic attacks. But we've also got to be very careful, because our mob do die a lot younger than people do. We wouldn't just say, oh, yeah, it is definitely anxiety. How often do they have it? But they're the questions you can actually have with people, which I love how the course teaches those things, because people don't know what they don't know. And
that's it.
Being a mental health first aid instructor will allows you to have the opportunity to have those conversations with mob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just looking at these beautiful awards here that you've been winning, you little superstar.
Yeah.
So what are they for? Like, what are you...
Well, are they talking about the first I won
I'm reading your post here that you just put up, and it's got
come on, tell us
the
about all the
Victorian
awards.
Reconciliation Heart Awards, and you've got a whole list of a string of them. I'm so jealous.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yes, and congratulations, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm employing someone to polish them as we
Love it.
Well, I suppose 2022 was a big year for me, because I actually won the Australian Association of Social Work Aboriginal Social Work.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And the funny thing was, it was the inaugural award, so no one's actually won it before me. So the people after me...
you just took it out.
Yeah. As good as me. And that was quite an honour, because it was actually assessed by peers as well, the Aboriginal peers.
Fantastic.
And then I actually got the Heart Award, and the Heart Award was for the YouTube channel that I've got.
Ah, right.
Which is, the Heart Awards are the Victorian Reconciliation Heart Awards, which is Reconciliation Victoria, as projects that you can submit. And one thing about the YouTube channel, and I'll do a little plug just then, the Get Getting Your YouTube channel.
Yes, please do.
Got stories. I've interviewed elders. I've interviewed young people. I've just finished a whole series for early childhood through the Association of Graduates in Early Childhood Studies, where we interviewed a number of services, because we always say for early childhood educators, when you enrol a kid in your your school, in your childcare, you're actually enrolling a whole family. So what are the issues that this family might be experiencing? And then we actually looked at all the service providers that get involved in Aboriginal kids, and we actually interviewed them all over a 12-month period. So we've got 12 videos up there of 12 different organisations. And the other big thing is that we've got tips and strategies of how to work with Aboriginal people from Aboriginal people themselves.
Excellent.
And from some non-Indigenous allies or accomplices.
We got accomplices now.
That I felt that I knew personally that has done great things in community. So we've got about 140 videos up there at the moment.
Oh my gosh.
And another 40 to go up in the next couple of months. So
140. I've only seen one, so I've got 139 to go.
There's a few more to watch. And so that the YouTube won the highly commended award at the Heart Foundation, the Heart Foundation, no, nothing to do with the Heart Foundation, the Heart Awards at Reconciliation Victoria. So the other awards, the Swinburne, the Allied Health COVID Award. And
tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, well, it's not about me having COVID, which I did have.
You won an award for having COVID, maybe.
Yeah, they give it out now. That was how you change your business practices during COVID.
Oh, right.
So initially, when COVID first, I think in March 2020,
yes,
I was already about a year booked out in my business.
Wow.
And in those first few weeks, and remember Melbourne, we actually had lots of
You were
lockdowns.
locked down,
strict lockdowns,
mania.
didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had just on the Friday been at one of the gathering places launching the elders videos, and that was on the Friday, and on Monday we were locked down.
Wow.
In the first 4 weeks, I had 15 organisations cancel something like 83 days of training.
Oh gosh.
Oh, wow.
And by May, I had lost all my work.
Nothing. Yep.
So
Jeez.
I went and worked on the helpline, the New South Wales Quit line, and the Beyond Blue helpline. Lucky I had another, it's when social work and nursing does come in handy. So I was able to do another job. But in the meantime, I said, well, I want to get the YouTube channel working, and I want to actually move my cultural awareness training from face-to-face to online.
Awesome.
And at that time, Mental Health First Aid were creating the blended versions of the course as well. So it was about putting all that together so that the following year I could actually, because we were in lockdown forever. We had lockdown.
I know. That's why I said lockdown mania, you fellas.
Yeah. So by the second year, I was working every day from home, being able to do some sort of training and mentoring programs, and the in-house school programs that I was doing with the Aboriginal kids could all be done online. So
I went that way too. We were affected over this way, and I couldn't get out because nobody wanted us out on country. So the next best thing was just the online stuff, which I think, we totally missed. Because I'm an on-country girl, so I'm just automatically get people out. But the online stuff just really took off for me.
Nice.
Yeah, look, the thing that was so hard for me is that I'm out in community, and I've the year before in 2019, I was at Marble Bar. I was at
AEOV in WA.
Yeah.
I was at Nikasara.
Okay.
I was doing a lot of work right across Australia, and then all of a sudden, for the last 3 years, I haven't been outside of Victoria, basically, because of the lockdowns.
You're open now, aren't you? You can
We
get
are,
out.
but I'm so glad, because I want to just say that when I became a mental health first aid instructor, there was very few mental health first aid instructors as well. And for a while, I worked at Mental Health First Aid Australia as their national program manager. So I was training new instructors, and I spent a lot of time on the ground actually helping a lot of the new instructors do their first and second mental health first aid programs. So I would actually go out to remote communities where there might be a sole mental health first aid instructor and actually do 1 or 2 trainings with them and go out there for the week, just so they can get their points, their ladder, their points on the ladder, if that makes sense. And then actually help them feel more comfortable in actually delivering as well. Because it is quite daunting being an instructor. You learn 2 days worth of, a course, and then you're expected to just go out and deliver.
Go and do it. Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
It is so
Did you have
hard.
palm cards? How do you remember all of that?
Look, now that I've done it so many times, I don't need it. But I had notes that were hidden in notes, kind of thing, for me to help remind myself about the whole course when we first did it.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, the other two awards.
We've actually got a few more listeners
It's got
in
more
here,
awards.
and more listeners as well. I don't know if you want to say hello to the people that we know, and you mentioned the other day they're both listening, so you better say hello to the aunties.
I can say hi to Auntie Patty.
Yeah.
My friend Patty. And I know the paper talks over there, and I know all the counsellors. So yeah, hi everyone. Hi.
They're all joining us this morning. I just seen Auntie Patty liking our status, so she's probably listening to you now.
Tickets as well.
All right. So what did you say? You got more awards there.
Well, you asked about them, so the other one was
Keep going. Tell us more.
the Swinburne Award was amazing because that was for social impact, and I never realised, what social impact actually meant, because the people in the categories with me had done some really great environmental projects, and I thought, yeah, that was a social impact. But then when they repackaged the award back up to me, it was like they were saying that if you've delivered 720 courses and there was at least 10 people in each course, there's 7,000 people
I reckon.
that have done a mental health first aid course with you. And most courses I would have had 15 people. So we're looking at 10,000
Oh
people.
my
It's
gosh.
incredible.
Then I started seeing what social impact kind of meant. And, people, elders always come up to me and say, oh, AJ, I'm so glad we had that conversation in that mental health first aid course that you did, because, I've already had 2 grandsons kill themselves. I noticed that my nephew was talking stuff, and I remembered you said that's a warning sign, so I knew I had to ask him the question, and I asked him, and thank God that he said yes, because I knew I could do something.
Oh.
That's social impact. I get what social impact actually is.
Wow.
So I was quite happy with the Swinburne Award, but nobody has ever won 2 alumni awards from 2 different universities
Wow.
same year, because Victoria University gave me the Professional Achievement Award, and I have, I understand the work that I've done. I don't always, I don't do things for the awards. I do them because of community, but having people recognise what I do, I was quite honoured with the Professional Achievement Award. The biggest one was at Victoria University. No one's won 2 alumni awards in the same night.
Oh my gosh, look at you.
I took out the Victorian University Spirit of VU Award.
Oh, wow.
Which is it's a peer nominated award. That was a public vote award, that one.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Basically looking at, once you've graduated from the university, who has demonstrated the values of the university out of all the finalists, and that's the award that I actually got as well, which was quite a shock.
Done.
I was quite amazed, and thank you.
Yay!
Yes.
And 2 in the one night. That's amazing.
Witness
Yeah,
celebrate your work.
Yeah, now he's just showing off.
Yeah. and that's why I'm saying I need someone to polish all my awards each week.
Love it.
I'm thinking of having a little red rope across the door so people can look at them.
Or
Put 'em
a
up,
red
put 'em
carpet under your seat
So
there,
nice.
brother.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, AJ, you were talking a little bit before about some of the feedback that you've gotten from the elders and from communities. And I'm just wondering, too, as a former mental health worker myself and as an ally in this community, what does Aboriginal mental health look like? Are there different needs? Are there different approaches?
Different signs, maybe,
culturally?
hey?
Are there different, like Western views of mental health, Aboriginal views of mental health, and what do we need to know with regards to the very specific work within the community?
I think one of the first things to think about is that we do know that Aboriginal mental health is double the rate of non-Indigenous mental health to start off with, that it's actually quite high.
Wow.
We also, which is, they basically say 2.5 in Australia, it's 1 out of 5 Australians currently have a diagnosis, and 1 out of 5 Australians are currently walking around with signs and symptoms that are undiagnosed. That's 2 out of 5. For Aboriginal people, it's already about 2.5 out of 5 that already have a diagnosis. That's already half the population. And 2 out of 5 walking around in high psychological distress most of the time without a diagnosis. So we're looking at about 4 to 4.5 out of 5. That actually is quite high.
Wow.
The other thing too is for everybody, and especially non-Indigenous people, to understand too that where does our trauma come from? And our worst enemy sometimes is social media, where all the trolls are out, and you can actually see that, but everyone blames colonization for everything. And I do think colonization was a big factor, but we've had so much trauma in our lives, which is so much more recent than where people place it, if that makes sense. So
it does.
And people are running around going, we're trying to do trauma-informed practice. The first thing we need to do is stop and look at, where does this trauma come from? Because if people don't understand where the trauma comes from, how the hell can they do trauma-informed practice?
Yeah.
Because some people are trying to treat colonization X, but there's so many other more recent things that people kind of forget, and that people don't know. Like when I do cultural awareness training, I try to explain to people that, we talk about the 1967 referendum. There's so many people that don't actually understand what the referendum was about. They always go, it's about voting. Well, actually it wasn't. It was about, Aboriginal people being counted in the census, and
that's
the
right.
federal able to legislate. Who did that impact on the most? Our elders in community right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
This is how recent this stuff really is.
Yeah.
And that's why when elders get up and do conversations and yarning at groups, they sometimes say things like, I was 5 when I became a citizen of this country. They're telling you that before that, them and their families weren't counted in the census.
Nothing.
They were nothing. And people don't actually always acknowledge how recent this history really is.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, that mental health first aid is really, as I said, looking at where does this trauma come from? And there is that first unit in the Aboriginal course, which is around social emotional wellbeing. And it's really in those conversations about, why is it that Aboriginal people have got higher rates of mental health? What are the triggers?
Yep.
And if you're doing it from a clinician's point of view, a clinical point of view, asking an Aboriginal person, asking that question, do you identify as being Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander? And a person says yes. Then looking at their date of birth and trying to put them into a timeline about, what are some events that I know that have been traumatizing for this person? Because then I can understand where some of the the trauma triggers come from.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan of Gabor Mate. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he talks about mental health as mental health issues as just a coping mechanism to trauma, basically.
Yes.
Simply put. And I think I like that because it does away with a lot of the stigma. There's something bad or wrong with you. Well, actually, you're just coping with trauma, and maybe not the most healthy way. And as a compassionate community of care, we want to bridge that gap and teach tools and techniques, or connect you with those entities that can provide those services. So I really think what you said is very important and powerful.
Exactly.
And it's the education stuff, isn't it? Because we had Senator Dorinda Cox in last night talking about the same thing around, because her portfolio was climate change and cultural heritage and caring for country. And she was also saying, the education behind that people need to know, why is that tree so important? And for us, mental health is like out on country. Like we wouldn't even have issues if we were connected to country. And, that's her fight. And, if we bring more people on that journey to connect to those things, we're still dealing with the Row 8 that happened over here with, the destruction and desecration of, sites and cultural heritage and stuff. So, yeah, you're right. There's lots of latest issues that we have to get through as well, not just the old stuff. It's like latest traumas and stuff as well, isn't it?
Why wouldn't we have mental health problems in the world that we live in today when we have so many, when we're living with dis-ease on so many levels and not natural ways? Yeah.
And then if you're looking at that, that's what I'm currently going through. Then you put the intergenerational stuff on top of that.
Wow.
And that makes it really, really hard. And people don't understand the intergenerational trauma is so recent as well because, 54% of our population is under the age of 25. That our, Aboriginal women often have their first kid before they're 22. So in that 54% of the population, there's already 2 generations of people. People don't realise what Close the Gap really now is about trying to get that 54% of the population under the age of 25 to 65 and above.
Yeah.
Because we don't meet that 65 and above category very much. I think it's only like 5% of our population is 65 and above. We're dying between 40 and 60.
So early. Yep.
We want to help close those gaps. And I think courses like mental health first aid and courses like cultural awareness trainings that are out there right across the country, that's what they're trying to achieve by getting people to have these conversations. I always say in my training, I'm not going to make you all of a sudden become culturally safe.
Be the expert or even be the cultural expert in a one-dayer.
I'm just trying to make you see things from a different point of view. And if you go, oh my God, I never thought of that once or twice in my training, then I know that I've done my job.
Yep.
Because once you leave the room, then those thoughts will be in your head. So when you experience that, you go, oh, I remember what AJ said, or I remember what this trainer said about this particular thing here.
Yep.
That's...
You have to give people food for thought, don't you? Because it's just, if we don't, they don't think about it or they don't know the space.
We're conditioned into accepting things that may or may not be for our best interest. So we need sort of something to counterbalance that. And look, I'm a big believer in critical thinking or also just being in touch with your intuition. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Your common
inherently.
sense.
It's our guide. So if you're not feeling well, there may be a reason for that. That may need to be explored or addressed or,
go and ask someone or go and see someone.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I think the thing I want Mob to really get especially from mental health first aid training is never be scared to ask questions either.
Yep.
We sometimes, I know when I do workshop with elders and when I've done work in remote communities, it's like the first day they're very quiet and sometimes you're not sure whether they're paying attention, but they're actively listening with all their thought processes. And then by day 2, if they feel comfortable, then they're asking those questions and they're talking about their family. And they recognise the stuff you've talked about the day before, going, oh my God, overnight I've started to reflect on this and this and this. And they bring that all to the training to actually not debrief, but to sometimes validate, is this what I'm seeing? Is it now that I need to intervene, or when is it that I do need to actually have those conversations with my family? And that's what I love about the course, because it makes people think.
Yep.
Now, AJ, with the course, do you share your knowledge with other people, other states as well, or just mainly in Victoria?
Up until COVID, I used to travel all over the country, and one thing that I really loved is that I've been doing this for 14 years or so, and as I said, I used to work at Mental Health First Aid Australia, and I made effort to go out and meet a lot of the instructors on their country to help do trainings with them to help them along. As time passed, some of those instructors fell off the system. Some of them got reaccredited. Some of them actually went, AJ, I'd like you to come into our community and teach community exactly like you taught me as an instructor. And I will do that as long as you're part of the process as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I'm trying to actually have the instructors that have been trained to do the work continue doing the work. I might come in and help you start off your journey as an instructor. But then after that, then it's kind of up to you. But I still keep in contact with a lot of the instructors.
Oh, that's good.
Fantastic.
I've done a lot of work, as I said, right around the whole country.
You get around, brother, don't you? If you need a helper.
I thought there was this virus. I don't know if you heard about it. It was called COVID.
Yes, true.
Definitely.
Well, it's been amazing
Yeah.
just listening to you roll out your
Yeah,
story and
yeah.
all of those beautiful awards. Well done. And don't stop. Keep the work up.
And let us know when you're in WA.
WA.
Maybe we'll have to, get a coffee and, do
Catch
this again
up.
in person.
Come and sit with us in the studio.
Yeah.
I'd love to come in the studio. I'd love to come and talk to you guys again about anything.
Yay! Well, when you get moving again, definitely hit us up.
Yeah, come.
I will.
Awesome. Well, we're going to say Boodja from Noongar country, Noongar Boodja.
Yeah.
And, we look forward to chatting again because this was just amazing and you're doing amazing stuff. So just keep it up, brother. It's just awesome. And there's been a few people listening. So, they've enjoyed the yarn and the chat with you this morning. So, well,
And
especially
thanks,
Auntie
guys.
Patty. She's just posted up and said, I'm having a yarn to my Curry brother.
Oh, yeah. Patty's like my sister from another mister.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, and if you get a chance, and I was just saying now, Patty and I were in Geraldton and we had the non-Indigenous people kicked out of the restaurant because they were making too much noise.
So it wasn't used, it was
Love it.
the non-Indigenous mob.
Are you
We had
sure
the
it wasn't you and
non-Indigenous
Patty?
mob
I love it. I think I might stay away from Auntie Patty then. I might get kicked out.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Hey, guys.
You take
Happy New
care.
Year to everybody.
Thanks,
Yeah.
AJ.
To you too,
And you
AJ.
enjoy your New Year's Day with your kids and family.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Boodja.
Boodja.
Wonderful.
Oh, so good.
How amazing. It's just mind-blowing stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely. So for anybody who just heard that
Yeah.
interview, who wants to get involved, wants to take part in some mental
Oh, we've
health
got to ask
training,
him if you want to do a song.
feel free to go ahead and check out Garaway Ghani Consultancy's website and get connected. There's a lot that's being offered and it's of such value to the community. So
He's on Facebook, but we'll call it Stalkbook. That's how I tracked him down.
That's it.
So his website's up there.
Check them out, and we will go to a song break, kicking off our new year with what you got for us.
Well, I
Sandra there?
reckon someone said this is the Aboriginal national anthem,
Okay.
"Solid Rock" by Goanna.
Oh, let's go for it.
Hope,
Love
AJ
Goanna.
likes it as well.